Good morning. Good morning. It is Energy Audit Thursday, and we are wrapping up this week's conversation. And week's conversation is all about um, letting go of old narratives, right? And so I do want you to know that you can change. Your story can change. Okay, your story can change. All right. Today we are going to audit the energy. Um, we're going to audit the energy that is giving you this false narrative and really reclaim your truth, right? The truth that you're ready to live, because you don't have to keep living a story that doesn't fit you anymore. All right. All right. Again, unlocking your potential. One of the things that is essential is our willingness to let go of the false narratives, right? And where did those false narratives come from? They probably came from somebody, some person, some place, some, your culture, right? And so we want to let that go. I had some gum in my mouth, so forgive me. All right. So listen, have you ever caught yourself saying, I'm just not good at that? All right. I always mess things up. All right. This is just how it's always been. All right. If so, then this session is for you. Okay. Because today's life lesson is about one powerful truth. You are allowed to change your story, even when others are attached to you, the old you, right? The old story. All right. You're not stuck. You're just stuck in a narrative. All right. You are not stuck, but you're just stuck in a narrative that has been given to you that you have identified with. One thing one you probably didn't write, right? One that you've likely outgrown, and one that has been leaking your energy, draining you, dimming your voice, and really keeping you small. All right. So it's time to audit what we call lies, right? And reclaim your life again, right? Pick up the pen in a sense and rewrite, okay? Rewrite your narrative. All right. So I wanted you to ask yourself, what is one old belief, um, identity, or label that you're ready to release on today? All right. And what's a new truth that you're willing to replace it with? What is my why for this conversation this morning? Listen, this session is truly about reclaiming authorship over your identity. All right. Most of us don't even realize that there's an internal story that is outdated. All right. It's outdated. Externally, it's outdated. It was externally assigned, and unconsciously you're rehearsing it over and over and over again. And today, hopefully this lesson is going to give you permission to really stop living out someone else's narrative and really start writing one that aligns with the person you're becoming. All right. All right. And giving you the courage to do that. And again, I know it may seem woo woo, or because it may seem woo woo, right? Because it's like, no, you just don't understand, Dr. Little. Like, this is how it is. And it's like, yeah, but you got to understand you a sophisticated um set of cells, right? And neurons and energy and emotions, and all of it is working, and it needs what? It needs some direction. And so simply put, the narrative or the story is you giving direction to these 750 billion cells. All right. And so when you're rehearsing or identifying with a story that has been given to you, or one that you have lived for the last 20 years, you're just reestablishing that this is what you want to see, this is what you want to experience. And to be able to shift that, right? And it happens so fast, right? But to be able to shift that, then you need to change how you speak, change what you believe, change what you want to see. All right. All right. Listen, here's my disclaimer for this morning. Awareness versus action. All right. Becoming aware is your limiting belief, and self-talk is the beginning, but they're not the breakthrough. All right. So becoming aware of your limiting beliefs and your self-talk is the beginning, but guess what? That's not the breakthrough. This session really helps you to name the old story. All right. But you must also act like the new version of you. All right. There is an action required. Okay. Even before you feel ready, you have to start doing things, right, to really change your experience. All right. And that's where transformation or real transformation is rooted. I know that a lot of times we want to see it happen before we step into it. What it reminds me of is like when you go into a relationship with someone, you're like, yeah, they got to show me that they love me before I can dot dot dot. You got to show me this before I can dot dot dot. And yeah, this transformation journey is so different than that. And I know that that's the safe way, right? It's safe. If I know that you desire me, then that takes my resistance down, and now I feel more comfortable with, with approaching you or whatever, right? So this knowing actually is a very much safety mechanism. Okay, and that's why the mind feels safe, because it knows what to expect from the people around you. It knows what to expect from your environment, right? And it's trying to keep you there because that is an element of safety, whether you're comfortable in it or not. All right, so what you have to do is you have to start moving differently, acting differently, right? Believe, so this new belief, this affirmation, you're aligning with that. And guess what? You're gonna feel so much drag. Right? It's gonna feel so awkward to do that, but that is how you start to activate a new energy. I was talking to someone yesterday and I'm like, listen, you got to get back in the driver's seat of your life. It's kind of like you a good passenger driver. You know, a passenger driver, right? The one that's telling you to brake and acting like they driving from the passenger side, and they just like, slow down, wait a minute, hold on, and they all the time complain on the passenger side about how the driver is turning and what the driver did and how fast the driver is going. And when you're on that passenger side, you trying to, press the brakes on the, ain't no brakes over there. You know what I mean? You holding on to the dashboard, right? And a lot of us are passengers in our life, right? The ego, the false narratives is the driver, and we're complaining. Oh, let me tell you what happened, and this is happening, and this is happening. But you're the driver of your life, right? You can literally boot that inner critic, that voice, that energy, right? You can put that on the passenger. You can put that in the passenger seat. You can put it in the back seat, right? In a vehicle, and then you can drive your vehicle, drive your life. You can be the driver of your life. Now, with that being said, just like any other passenger in your car, you're going to hear it. It's going to be saying stuff, right? It's going to be talking back at you. But you have to say, listen, I got this. I got this. All right. All right. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Energy Audit Thursday, and today we're talking about the it factor, you guys. We know what the it factor is. It's all about identity and self-talk on this morning. So I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little, the creator of the Stop It Now method, right? The owner of Shaper Solutions. I've been in business now for about 12 years. I've been a clinical therapist for 20 years, and I'm currently certifying coaches, you guys, life coaches, all right, in this mythology that I feel like is just so awesome. It's so awesome. All right. All right. So let's get present in our bodies on this morning. All right. Sitting up. Tell me, did you guys do what I asked yesterday when I was like, hey, tell your spine to align itself? And did you feel your spine actually standing up tall? Okay. So let's feel our feet on the floor on this morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's feel our feet on the floor. All right. Coming up our legs, feeling our legs. Okay. Feeling our butts on the seat if you're sitting down. Like if you're standing up, feeling your legs, right? Activating the space around your legs. We're not going to judge it as good or bad. We're just going to send some compassion and some gratitude, okay, to our lower bodies, okay? Activating that root chakra on this morning. All right. Okay. Yeah, moving the energy. Okay. Up our spine. All right. Up our spine. An awesome spine. Like I said, the spine is a phenomenal entity that our body has. Good morning. Good morning, cousin Bernice. Happy Juneteenth to you as well, my love. All right. Happy Juneteenth. Juneteenth is definitely one of those days to be celebrated. Okay. It's definitely one of those days to be celebrated. All right. Filling our intestines, right? Bringing some compassion to our intestines and taking a deep breath in. Feeling those lungs expand, right? Breathing out, Breathing in again, breathing out, right? Up our necks, filling our mouth, our eyes, our nose, right? Our ears, softening the space around our ears, activating our brains on this morning. Did I go down our arms? I don't know if I get down our arms, activating our hands. We can do that too, right? And then the biggest organ in our bodies, our skin. We just want to become aware of our space right now, right? Just being present, coming present. We've already done what we were supposed to do for our person, right? We probably got into some community. It's 9:45, so we probably stepped into some community. Now this is our self-awareness and development time, so we can be prepared for the day. Now, today is Juneteenth, right? What a great day to talk about this inner critic, and what a great way to end this letting go of these false narratives. All right. If we know the story about Juneteenth, right? It was the day that the slaves found out in Texas, June 19th, that they were free. Okay, that they were free. And it had been so many years. Let me see how many years did it take. It had been so many years that they had been free. But guess what? Nobody told them, right? Nobody told them. So there's a lot of commencements going on today, a lot of traditions going on today. So I hope that you're doing something to really celebrate this, right? It's an official holiday. And yeah, so this narrative that was broken, right, on Juneteenth. And we're gonna make that personal today. All right. Letting go of the false narratives, right? Letting go of these false narratives. So, who is this session for on this morning? Oh, before we do that, I want you to drop a word in the chat. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're doing on this morning. I'm doing great. I'm doing great this morning. It's been raining the last couple of days, but outside of that, I've been doing great. I've been doing great. How are you doing on this morning? All right. So who this session is for? This session is for you if you've been carrying old stories that no longer reflect your truth. All right. If you're ready to replace them with something real, this story is for you. All right. And if you ever said, I'm just not good at that, I'll never follow through, and I just don't belong here, whatever that here is. All right. All right. If it's at this job, if it's this self-sabotaging energy, all right. This is your reset moment. All right. So, what is our guiding quote for this morning? You are allowed to change your story. All right. Even when people are attached to the old one. You are allowed to change your story even when people are attached to the old one. Remember, the mind wants to be safe. So it's easy for a person to attach or see you as the person you used to be. That's the most easiest thing. Remember that motivational triad. That motivational triad said that what? The brain wants to conserve energy, right? Avoid pain, right? And seek pleasure. So to conserve my energy, it's just easy for me to see you as the person that I knew 20 years ago, because it's going to take a lot of energy for me to dismiss that pattern, right, and see you as something new in the way you are today. So don't be upset about it, right? Have compassion for them that they don't that actually a body is not wanting to override, right, this belief of who you used to be. But in the second part of that, it's not their job, right? It's not their job. It's your job, right? It's your job to really change your story. All right. All right. So here's the thing. Here's the essence of today's show. It's really about identity permission. Listen, you've been living by stories, some that you inherited that came through, right, through your DNA, some that was learned in your culture, right? Some that was internalized, right? As you started to live, you identify with those, and some that made up, some that were made up just for survival. All right. But here's your truth. Your story is editable. It's editable. All right. All right. And you are allowed to change it. Like, you can press edit. All right. Even when others are attached to the old narrative about you, you can go in and you can take a eraser and you can rewrite it, right? Moving forward, right? And experience something very different. Hopefully experience the very thing that you want to experience in this life. You still have time to do that. So the core of this message is that the story you've been living is not the only one that is available to you. All right. You are not what happened to you. You are not what they say about you, or what they say you were, right? You're not even what you decided under pressure or in survival or in your pain. All right. You are allowed to evolve your identity and really reclaim authorship over your life. Why this lesson matters is because most people don't realize that their exhaustion isn't from doing too much, it's from being misaligned. A lot of us is tired because we just in the wrong, all the way misaligned. So you're just constantly draining and draining energy to even keep yourself in this misaligned place. All right. You're spending your energy defending a version of you that doesn't even fit anymore. All right. This might be that you're the strong one who never needs help. This could be that you're the quiet one that doesn't take up space. This could be that you're the fixer, right? That absorbs everyone else's emotion. Listen, these identities, like we talked about in the beginning of the week, are survival tools, you guys. But now they're energy burdens. You're feeling them. You're carrying that weight, right? And so this a session really gives you permission to really put down those performative habits, right? And pick up your power by rewriting this internal narrative. And again, introducing you to this concept that you can rewrite your story. All right. Now, the same brain that created this story and the same environment that created this story may not be the brain and the environment that could change it, which is why you have therapists, which is why you have the Project Life, which is why you have individuals that you could seek out help to really help to change your story, because you can change your story. You're allowed to do that. All right. One of my clients realized that her story was, I'm just not leadership material. All right. I'm just not leadership material, which came from years of subtle messages, right? Her parents really didn't listen to her. The jobs that she was in would dismiss her ideas. All right. And that story wasn't fact, but it did give some emotional residue. All right. So she had to rewrite it. I am built for impact, right? She felt this leadership on the inside of her, right? And she really had to start to bring those things up in her and stop listening and letting what her job said, what her parents said, right, really become the drivers. All right. So she rewrote and she said, I'm built for impact. And now she leads her team with clarity. And guess what? She launched or is launching her own coaching program. All right. All right. So I want you to think about, what limiting beliefs are you still carrying? And what is the new truth that you're ready to tell yourself? All right. This question can uncover things like, I'm not ready. I always mess up things. I can't trust myself, right? I'm not good enough for that. I'll always, I'm not a good this. I'm not a good that. That's not how I work, right? Right. And it's not too late, or it's too late. And I want you to know that it's not too late. All right. Good morning, brother. Little big brother. I love you. All right. Listen, your identity is not fixed, it's formed. All right. Your identity is not fixed, it's formed. And every time you speak truth over yourself, you really start to shape that truth. Right. And every time you interrupt a lie, you are reclaiming your energy back. All right. So this is the heart of Energy Audit Thursday, where you're leaking energy of false roles, outdated labels, and limiting talk. All right. So you have to identify, where are you leaking energy in these false narratives, in these outdated labels, and in these limited self-talk. All right. And what would shift if you redirected that energy to something different? All right. So again, we're talking about unlocking your potential. All right, unlocking your potential all this month. But this week, we're talking about letting go of these false narratives to what? To unlock your potential. So this week was all about identity excavation, right? Not just discovering who you are, you guys, but releasing what you're not. All right. So a big part of discovering who you are is the releasing what you're not. Remember, we had that conversation on Tuesday, like the unlearning process. So we're learning so much, but we're not unlearning. And we have to really unlearn some stuff. All right. All right. So this is not just about discovering who you are, it's releasing who you're not. All right. It's a journey. It's a journey, again, of unlearning, letting go of outdated beliefs, inherited roles, right? And limiting stories that has shaped your self-concept and how you see yourself. And each day we have pulled back the layers to really help you stop performing and really start becoming, or really giving you a glimpse into what is this story that I'm telling myself about myself. So on my Set Reset Monday, you know, we talked about who told you that that was you. All right. And that was all about stories and triggers. So we began the week about confronting the labels, the roles, right? The opinions that really shape your identity. All right. And so the core of that was the core of that session was really about who gave you that story and is it still true? All right. So the shift from that session or that life lesson was intended to say, you are not the names that people gave you or the stories that people gave you. You are the truth that God has placed in you. All right. And then on Transformational Tuesday, we talked about opportunity costs and obstacles, right? We really start to unpack the unlearning is healing, right? So a part of this healing process is not just going to talk about the things that, and really identifying this new information. It's about, okay, what is it that I need to unlearn? All right. And this is where we broke down how beliefs become blockages. All right. We name those false narratives like I'm too much or I always fail and I'm not lovable. And we challenge them and really I let you know that these are not personality traits, right? These are coping mechanisms that have expired. They're no longer working for you. So the shift from that session was unlearning is not loss, it's liberation, right? I need to unlearn this, right? We talked about the garden and really cultivate for these new seeds, these new beliefs to take root and have an opportunity to sustain, right? We got to go clear that garden out. Okay. We got to get rid of some stuff. Now, here is the greatness about that. If you stop cultivating, though, these new seeds, guess what's going to happen? The weeds going to come back. The default you is going to come back, right? Because it ain't going nowhere. We're just pulling it back. So if you notice, if you go clean out your garden, right, you go till and you plant down new flower beds and you put new stuff in there, if you don't keep up with that, guess what's going to happen? Those old weeds and shrubs and all of that stuff is going to come back and overtake it. All right. And this is why we know that the unlearning process is a lifelong journey. And the transformational process is a lifelong journey. And healing is a lifelong journey because a part of healing is expansion, right? And it's continuing to pull these weeds. It's continuing to cultivate this space of growth, all right, as you grow. And then on yesterday, which was Gratitude Shift Wednesday, we talked about releasing the roles that no longer fit. All right, releasing those roles that no longer fit. All right, this session really helped you to recognize, or was intended to help you recognize, the emotional labor of performing. All right, and how you've been playing these roles of the fixer, the problem solver, the strong one, right? Just to survive. And you survived. All right, but now it's time to have some gratitude for that, right? And allowing gratitude to really be the bridge to help you release those performative roles. Thank those roles, right? And then let them go so that you can start to thrive in your life. And on today, all right, on today, as we wrap up this week's conversation, this Energy Audit Thursday, I am letting you know that your story can change and you are allowed to change it, right? So now this is about going internal to this inner critic, right? This identity and this self-talk, right? After unmasking these roles and beliefs, we're auditing the energy, right? We're auditing the energy that we've been pouring into these false narratives and really reclaiming, right, authorship of our story. All right. So here's the shift in the intention for today. Your identity is not fixed, you guys. You get to choose what version of yourself you want to nourish. All right. You get to choose what version of yourself you want to nourish. Now, I'm going to give an analogy. If you were if you were outside in your garden, and this is the best way I can say this, you get to choose the part of you that you want to nourish. Now, everything you pay attention to, you go out to your garden, and whatever you look at, all right, is the thing that grows. Whatever you talk about is the thing that grows. Okay. So you go and you get these roses, these beautiful roses. And if you guys don't know, yeah, I do love roses. All right. So you go get these roses, you go outside and you plant them. and you talk about the roses that you planted, the first day. Like, man, I planted these great roses. They are so nice, and your direction is on the roses. All right. So the first day you talk about them, you see them start to blossom. The second day you go out there, same thing. You're talking about the roses. All right. The third day you go out and you see a weed. All right. And you're like, oh my God, where did that weed come from? So you come in the house and you're like, man, I saw a weed. I noticed the weed in the garden, right? So now you go to the store and you're talking about the weed, right? You like there's these weeds that's in the garden. Can you tell me some weed killer to get? So you go back outside and you're focused on the weeds and you're digging up the weeds and you notice that more weeds is coming. And so you come in the house and you're talking about more weeds and more weeds. And then when you go out there, instead of you looking at the rose garden and talking about the rose garden, all your mind is consumed on the weeds, right? And everything to really get rid of these weeds, get these weeds out the way. And that it has been your conversation for a week. All right. All right. So the first 3 days you talked about the rose garden. The next 7 days you talked about the weeds. I mean, everywhere you went, you talked about how these weeds came up and you don't really know how these weeds are there because you've done all this stuff to get rid of the weeds and you know how you just don't like weeds and all of that. So, and every time you go out to your garden, you notice the weeds are getting bigger and bigger and more and more and bigger, and they frustrating you. Now, remember the caveat at the beginning of this narrative or the beginning of this metaphor was whatever you talk about, whatever you pay attention to grows. All right. Now, mind you, you haven't talked about the roses or paid attention on the roses in 7 days. So on the 11th day, you go out and you see the rose bush. The roses are dying. And you like, what happened to the roses? And now you mad. You go to the store and you like, you sold me fake roses. These roses that you got me wasn't good because they're dying and da 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 da, yada yada yada. All right. When the truth of the matter is, no, they sold you healthy roses, right? They sold you the right roses. But when you saw an error, when you saw the weeds, you stopped nourishing the roses. All right. This is again the whole thing of you get your identity is not fixed. You get to choose what version of you that you nourish, right? That's the version of you that you're talking about. That's the version of you that you're paying attention to. And that's the version of you that you focused on. All right. But what tends to happen is on the first part of your journey of transformation, you're like, yeah, I'm with the therapist. I'm at the gym. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. First day, second day, third day. Right. And then the fourth day, guess what? You get poked. Somebody say something, right? Some old energy comes up. And instead of you now talking about the gym and the great book you read and the transformation or the life lesson, you're talking about the poke. And then you calling everybody. You're like, can you believe that this poke happened? Whatever that poke is, such and such said this thing happened, or whatever, right? You're going to sleep thinking about that. And for the next 7 days, you notice more pokes is happening. Now you have taken your attention off of what? The transformation, off of the gym, off of the things that you were doing in your life. And then when they don't happen on that 11th day, when you haven't really focused on it, haven't talked about the transformation, and now the energy isn't there, it's like, oh, well, maybe that just wasn't for me. No, it was. You just chose to keep talking about the poke and not the transformation. If that makes sense, put a 8 in the chat. And so this is how we nourish the new, the now. What is it that you want? And let's talk about that. All right. Let's talk about that. Now, in the analogy, do we have to pull the weeds? Yeah. I can get a weeds 3% of my time, right? Just enough time to get you out the way. But what I'm gonna give most of my time to is this beautiful rose bush, is this thing that I'm changing. And I know that I gotta stay there because this is new, right? It's newly rooted. And we know with newly rooted, any type of plants, you gotta water them, you gotta until they take root. And you're responsible for this new becoming part of you taking root. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So, how does these sessions connect? Each day, we remove a layer of performance, of pressure, and of pain, right? Until you reach this truth that you are not what you've been told. All right, that you are not what you chose to believe. Um, that you are not what you were told. You are what you chose to believe, and you are allowed to believe something better. All right. All right. So this week was not just a detox, you guys. It was clarification and it was declaration, right? That you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to rewrite your story and you're allowed to show up differently. All right. All right. So here's a real life example. Another one. All right. I was working with a client and he for years believed that he couldn't start his own business. All right. He wanted to go back to school, but he just felt like he wasn't the smart one, right? So it started as this belief that he wasn't smart started as whispers in his classroom when he was younger, right? And then when he got to work, it was the silence that he used to hear around him at work. And it just really started to shape his identity, all right? Where he just felt like he wasn't smart enough. But one day, she he changed. Okay. And we've been working together now for a couple of years. He just went through a divorce, but he has two businesses now. All right. He went back to school, he got some certificates, and he has a cooking business and he has a different business. But it was a lot to get him to focus on what he wanted and not what he had experienced. All right. So this shift wasn't external, you guys. It was an internal shift. And as soon as he stopped allowing himself to that energy to leak right into these inadequacies or this self doubt and really start to pour his energy into who he was, right? When he started to make that shift, things changed for him. All right. So here's our pause and here's our heart check in on this morning. Again, I'm going to ask it again. What is one belief or label that you've been carrying that no longer fits who you're becoming? All right. That no longer fits who you're becoming. So here's some essential things that I want you to know before we move on. Rewriting your story often feels like grief. We talked about this on yesterday. All right. You are letting go of a part of you that's been with you for a long time. All right. So you're not just changing a belief. Again, you're grieving. You're grieving what? Who you thought you had to be. You're grieving the years that you lived under a lie, under a truth that you believe, under somebody else's thoughts of you. All right. And then you're grieving the opportunities that you miss believing you're not enough. I think that's the biggest one. My friend Gladys came on the other day and she talked about this book she was reading about money. And one of the things that she said with this new information, right? She said, I wish I would have known this a long time ago. That's a form of grief, right? So I have this new information and I wish I would have known it, right? So those are the opportunities that I missed because I probably didn't do the thing that I could have did, or if I would have known this and I feel like my life would have been different. All of that is grief. Listen, grief is not a setback. It is really this sacred closure, right? It's bringing closure to this old identity. All right. And so it's okay. I also want you to know that the inner critic is often a younger version of you asking for protection. All right. So this inner critic is also known as, or some people can identify, and I know I do, as your inner child. All right. That harsh voice inside is not evil, right? It's divine. It's like your inner child, and it's trying to keep you from disappointing or from, it's trying to keep you from the disappointment, the rejection, and the shame. All right. So the thing that we don't have to do anymore, we don't have to fight it. All right. Because this is your inner child. This is the part of you that has been wounded, that has been taken advantage of, that has trust issues, right? And you, as the grown adult person at this grown adult age, right? You get to lead that. And again, you take that voice out of the driver's seat and you put it on the passenger seat and tell it to buckle up because you're about to take it on the ride and it's going to be safe. All right. And you are safe. Okay. You are safe. All right. Another thing I want you to know is that you will be tempted to return to these old stories, but that doesn't mean that the new one isn't working. All right. I talk about being triggered a lot, and really bringing up this idea that a trigger is an invitation, right? It's an invitation. It's really your mind saying, hey, you're not on grass anymore. Okay. It's like you used to be on grass, but now you're on concrete, and your body is screaming, saying, we're not on grass anymore. All right. And what we tend to do when we get triggered is to go back to what's comfortable, right? So we tend to be like, oh, that was a triggering conversation, so I just had to stop. That triggered me, so I just had to go, right? And it's in a way we're retreating, all right? And because life is about expansion, right? Because life is about unfolding, the mechanism of being triggered, it wouldn't make sense for it to tell you to retreat in that way, right? It's more of an expansive thing. So it's there to make you aware. Hey, we're not on grass anymore. We're on concrete. Now, we know that we can roll in grass in this analogy. You can roll in grass and not hurt yourself, right? Right? But if you roll or you skid yourself on some concrete, you may just bleed. All right. And that's the mind saying, hey, we're on concrete. So we probably need to adjust accordingly. We need to probably be a little bit more alert, right? We need to be more present, right? So when you get triggered, it's really just your body calling for you to get present. All right, present in all in as much as your faculties as possible so that you can handle whatever is about to happen. But typically we don't do that. We go into an old narrative. We are triggered and then a old narrative or something comes up and we end up reliving that. In a sense, we retreat back to the grass. We retreat back to what's comfortable. All right. All right. But what I want you to know is that you we'll be tempted to return to these old stories, but that doesn't mean that the new one isn't working. All right, listen, your nervous system, again, is wired for familiarness. So when you're triggered, your nervous system is saying, hey, it's not safe. That's how it feels. All right. But this old narrative, so the old narrative will call you back, right? This pattern will call you back to go back into the grass, especially when you're scared or afraid. So I'm asking you, I guess I'm saying this to say, hey, stay anchored. All right. Repetition is required to rewire this new reality. So know that even though everything in you is pulling you back, everything in you is calling you to do this other thing, that you are the author of your life and you can stand firm in that thing. Now, just say you so happen to go back to the grass. We're not going to judge it. All right. But we're going to be aware that, hey, I was just on concrete. I got triggered and I'm back in the grass. What do I need now to be safe? Because maybe you need some support. Maybe you need something to feel more comfortable on the concrete. And that's fine. All right. We don't have to judge it. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Put a one in the chat for me. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Again, the people who were comfortable with the old narrative. Oh, I'm sorry, your nervous system is wired for familiarness, right? And so these old narratives will call you back, especially, if you're tired or afraid or scared. And a lot of things in this expansive life is scary. All right. Number 4, listen, not everyone will accept your new story. All right. And that's a sign that you're on the right track. Listen, everybody ain't coming with you. And I know we hear this all the time, but it's still this desire that I want people to come with me, or I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna be the person that change everybody's mind, right? It's some resistance that we have, and no matter how much you hear, everybody is not going to come with you, right? Right? It's still this desire to want everybody to come with you. All right. But here's the thing, the people who are comfortable with the old version of you, they're going to resist your change. All right. And that's not rejection, it's revelation that you're changing. All right. Your growth is exposing their stuckness. All right. Their inability to change and adapt. It's not reflecting you. All right. But a lot of times we'll take it personal. All right. We'll take it personal, or we're now outside our comfort zone and we want their support. So we will go back. All right. Another thing I want you to know is changing your story changes your energy. All right. So changing your story actually changes your energy. Here's the thing, you can start believing different things about yourself. When you start to believe different things about yourself, your posture actually shifts. All right. Your decisions shift, your boundaries shift, your life starts to shift. All right. Identity transformation is an energy shift before it's a lifestyle change, you guys. And when you start to believe different about your identity, you will start to show up differently in your life. All right. Which is why identity is so important to who you are and who you are becoming. All right. All right, you're not just rewiring your story, you're reclaiming a pen. Okay. Most people don't realize that they're that they've been handed a narrative. All right. Um, most people don't realize that they handed their narrative over to pain, to people, and to pressure. All right. And this lesson is really about taking the pen back. All right. You are the narrator now. So I want you to write your story with intent. All right. Yes. Yes. Um, it's important that you have an intention in this new season of your life about how you want to show up. And what is that intention? All right. What is the energy underneath the doing? And have some level of consciousness with this. And um, yeah, last but not least, the story you tell yourself about yourself becomes the ceiling of your life. All right. So again, with an identity level transformation, every dream, every decision, every relationship and boundary you hold is filtered through self concept. All right. And if your internal story is, I'm always behind, then you'll sabotage your success. If your internal story is, I'm not a leader, then you'll shrink your opportunities. And if your internal story is, I am broken, right, you'll tolerate what hurts you. All right. And if your internal narrative is, I'm not good enough, then you won't feel worthy to put standards or boundaries up. All right. Listen, your story actually sets the standard for what you think you deserve in this life, in this relationships, financially, in your health, in your well being. All right. And we all come from tragic stories. All right. And again, remember, stories is the healing process, right? Unlearning stories is a healing part of the healing process. So you're going to be creating your story for the rest of your life. This, taking the time to really rewrite you know, what you want to experience. And it may take an experience of feeling broken or feeling like you're not a leader at some season of your life for you to know that that's a place, okay, I need to rewrite as you start to blossom and as you start to become, because that's a part of the journey and we don't have to judge that. All right. So today isn't about feeling better, you guys. It's really about raising your life ceiling, right, by speaking what truth into your foundation. And as a bonus, I want to tell you that telling yourself the truth is a um it's an act of kindness, right? It's really revolutionary, okay? Especially for for women, for people of color, right? For those who were raised in performative religions or uh, who were raised to perform, for in strong religious environments, right? Truth telling, it felt dangerous. All right. So when you were taught to be grateful, to comply, to be humble and to be quiet, right? Those things, right? To be bold and to say, I'm finna write my story, that's revolutionary. So when you say I'm enough, I deserve more, right? I get the right to change my mind, right? You're not just shifting your story, you're breaking generational, cultural, and a lot of times spiritual ceilings. All right. So rewriting your story isn't soft work, right? It is a rebellion. It is a divine rebellion. It's you taking ownership of your life. Okay. It's you taking ownership in your life. So today's session isn't or lesson isn't just about language. It's about liberation. All right. You are allowed to be powerful, even if your story, right, used to say that you were not. You're allowed to be powerful on this day, on this Juneteenth of 2025. All right. All right. Listen, the truth is, again, that your self talk becomes your identity. Every thought is either reinforcing who you are, okay, who you were, or revealing who you are becoming. All right. So if you keep saying you're not enough, you're not ready, right, you're not equipped, right, your life will organize it around that limitation. All right. But when you speak truth to your spirit, to your divine self, and you say, it is safe for me to grow, and I am safe to grow, right? I don't need permission to be powerful because I am powerful. All right. And my voice matters. Guess what? You start to shift your reality. This matters because most people aren't stuck, they're just stuck in their story. You're not really stuck. You're just stuck in your story, in your belief. And stories, it shapes your energy. It shapes your capacity. All right. And here's the real value in this. When you start to reclaim your pen, And the pen is just language, right? To the ability to write. You actually redirect your power and you start showing up aligned with truth, not just from trauma. All right. Um, and when I'm talking about the energy, stories that shape your energy, you have something, uh, you have something like a shot glass, right? And some of us are living in a shot glass, right? Because our story is just confining us to this. And I talked about this kind of yesterday when I talked about, what your parents learned. Your parents learned something, all right? And when your parents learned it, they got capped, right? They got capped. And when they got capped, now this is all you know. But in essence, your parents was this, and then they got capped to this, right? And then now you're living in this limitation. So your story is actually shaping your energy. It is shaping your energy. All right. And when you have a bigger story, in that sense, we're asking God to expand our territory, to expand to expand life, right? Listen, that's going to require your story to change. That is going to require you to affirm some things to be true. Okay. I once had a client to tell me that the moment I changed how I talk to myself, I literally stopped tolerating environments that diminish me. And guess what? Research shows that self-affirming practices improves clarity, it improves confidence and emotional regulation, especially when tied to identity shifts. All right. So if you're ready, especially when tied to identity shift. So you're ready to stop these energy, this leaking energy on old narratives and really start really rewriting your story, aren't you? Right? Is that something that you really want to do? Really letting go of these limitations that has been placed on you. So Miss Lorraine said, can't stay today, but I felt the need to greet you today and say, I love you, Sheila. I love you too, Miss Lorraine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Yeah, I really want you to know that the importance of letting go of these false narratives. All right. We've lived with them for so long. All right. You may have lived with them for so long. And I know that, again, this idea that you're actually living out a script. All right. I want you to think about a movie. The next time you watch a movie, and I want you to think about, like I said, I love Scandal, right? That is my go-to show, but somebody wrote that script for Carrie, right? Somebody wrote that script for her. And so she read it and read it. And then she thought to herself, okay, who do I need to be? When she read it, she was like, who is Olivia Pope? And what type of energy does she carry? This is what actors do, right? And how does she show up, right? And so she takes that script, right, every season, and she just kills it, right? She's like, because now, if I was to meet the real Carrie, I'm sure she's nothing like Olivia. All right. Olivia was the character that was wrote by Sandra Bland. Well, it's not Sandra Bland, but Shonda, by Shonda, who wrote this script, right, out for her, right, and gave it to her and say, hey, I need you to embody this. That is life, right? That is what we are doing. Right? Somebody gave you a script and said, "Hey, this is who you are. Your environment, your grandmama is somebody." Or when you showed up, they said, "Don't be that." Right? Don't be loud. Don't be the person that asks questions. Don't be the rebellious one. And all of that started to shape a character of who you needed to be and who you need to show up as. And that character has been running the show. And you, as the person sometimes witnessing this character, is like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to say yes when I really mean no. I don't want to be that, right? You outgrown this character that your society, that your community, or whatever felt was I want to say shaped, right? And that character was shaped to help you feel comfortable. And now you've outgrown it. And all I'm saying is, hey, you can let go of that character. All right. and you can rewrite a new character, because you're always going to be witnessing the character as the spiritual being. You're not tied to anything, so you're always, in a sense, displaying, right, or being an entity that is demonstrating, right, some belief. All right. So why not believe that you're beautifully and wonderfully made and that everything is working for your good? Okay. All right. So we know that on today, on Thursdays, we talk about the it factor, okay, which is identity and self-talk. All right. So here's some essential things that I need you to know about identity, the inner critic, and letting go. All right. You're not stuck. You're just repeating a story. That's one of the greatest things that I can let you know. So when you say I'm stuck, when you like, I just feel stuck, I just feel stuck, I want you to think, okay, but what story am I repeating? All right. Listen, your life is pattern. Again, you're not broken, your pattern. So your life patterns don't come from fate, right? They come from what you believe about yourself. And if you change this internal script, guess what'll happen? Your external results change too. All right. Another thing I want you to know is most people self-talk isn't yours, or most self-talk isn't yours. It was installed, right? Most of the stuff that you hear in your head is stuff that you picked up, all right, along the way. All right. So the voices in your head may sound like you, all right, but it was shaped by others, like your parents, your culture, your religion, your rejection, and your trauma. All right. So just because it sounds familiar doesn't mean it's true. All right. And it has taken on a voice of yours, right? And so you believe it's your thoughts, but it's not. All right. It's not. You can't build new language with old, you can't build a new life with old language. I've said this over and over and over again. Pick up a book, pick up an autobiography, pick up a comic book, pick up something just so you can get some new language. Or you can go to sheetalittle.com/affirmations, or just go to sheetalittle.com at the top of the page. It'll send you to the affirmation so you can get new ways of being. That's a free affirmation challenge over the next 30 days where you will get new language in your mail, in your email every day. All right. Listen, you can't expect a breakthrough while rehearsing the same old lies, right? New language really creates new identity. All right. So speak where you're going, not just to where you've been. Now, what's coming up in my spirit is when you go to read that book and now you go to talk to your friends about that book. You're like, oh, you read a new book, so now you're trying to be new. Or you just heard that yesterday. Now you're trying to say it. Absolutely. That would be my response. Absolutely. I'm changing my language. And I just read this book and I want to talk about it. Right. And people know, like, oh, you just talking like that because you just read absolutely, because you just read that new book, or you just, you going to a new class. Now you think you're different. Absolutely. Right. And mind you, those are the things that sometimes stop us because we are often shamed, right, for changing, for showing up differently, for setting boundaries. But remember, that is that person saying, hey, your newness is making me uncomfortable. All right. And so it is, in a sense, triggering triggering their comfort zone, their nervous system. All right. Silence isn't strength, it's self-abandonment. So when you mute your truth to keep peace, right? When you say, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to argue, or I don't want to talk about it because right. Guess what? You lose a part of yourself in the process. So letting go means reclaiming your voice, not waiting on permission to use it. All right. Another thing I want you to know is old beliefs will demand loyalty even after they've expired. So sometimes your inner critic is just an old defense mechanism asking, can it stay in charge? All right. Listen, you don't need to argue with it. You just need to override it. All right. Because these old beliefs will demand loyalty from you. You thought this way for 20 years and now you just think I'm going to let you think something different. That's what that old belief is saying. And I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm going to override you. I'm going to do something different. I know I went left for the last 20 years, but today I'm going to go right. And as I'm going right, I hear you telling me, like I was talking about the GPS system, it's saying rerouting, right? Because you did something manual, right? You stepped out the pattern and you did something manually. All right. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between familiar and healthy. Okay. So if your self-talk has been harsh for years, kindness won't feel fake. Kindness will feel fake at first. All right. So keep speaking this truth though. Your spirit will recognize it before your comfort zone does. All right. Again, your nervous system can't tell the difference between familiar and healthy. So you talking to yourself nice now. I love you. And that feels weird. All right. And you're being gentle with yourself and your nervous system. Like, this is weird. Like something wrong with you. Like, is you going crazy? Right? Because your nervous system is not used to that, right? Because the nervous system doesn't understand the difference between familiar and what's healthy, but you do as this grown age of an adult. All right. All right. Identity is not a discovery, it's a decision. All right. So you don't find out who you are, you decide who you are becoming. All right. Every word you speak over yourself either aligns with your future or anchors you in your past. All right. So identity is not a discovery, it's a decision that you're making. All right. Remember that entropy says anything left to itself will decay or will start to go into disorder, right? This is the law of entropy. Anything that's left to itself will start to decay or, go into disorder. Listen, if you don't work out, you're going to get weak. You don't have to do anything. You're going to get weak, right? I've said this because I heard this man say it and it just really was like so powerful. The whole point that I'm making is that you got to do something. All right. You have to activate. All right. When left alone, you will decay. Okay. You will start to dismantle naturally. All right. If you've ever seen a house that no one lives in, it starts to look droopy and down. Right. But then you put life in that house and it seems like the house like smiles. All right. Because there's energy, there's life there. All right. And so we have to put life into places. So identity is not discovery. You're not discovering who you are. You're deciding who you are. All right. And every word you speak over yourself either aligns with that person you're deciding to be or it anchors the person that life told you that you had to be or your circumstances and condition told you had to be. And you can override that. All right. Energy leaks through false identity is maintenance, or energy leaks through false identity maintenance, trying to keep up a version of yourself that no longer is true is exhausting. So letting go is not laziness, you guys. It's liberation, because energy leaks through false identity maintenance, right? Trying to maintain this space that is no longer true is energy work, and it's draining. Okay. All right. A couple of more things I need you to know. Healing is learning to talk to yourself like someone you love. I'm going to say that again to the people in the back. Healing is learning to talk to yourself like someone you love. Listen, transformation isn't just about doing the work. It's really about becoming a safe place inside your mind. All right. Inside your own mind. And sometimes we can be our own worst enemies by just how we speak to ourselves. Right. And here's the thing about it. No one has to hear that. And so we've given ourselves permission to say these very cruel things to ourselves. And, sometimes I can listen to people. It's like, I'm just so stupid. And I'm not like, no, why are you saying that? I know this sounds stupid. You don't have to say that, right? Because you said it to you before you even said it to me. Okay. So we can set different standards, right? So start talking to yourself like somebody you love. Now, will those old ways that you talk to yourself come up? Yeah. And then speak to it like someone you love. All right. All right. And then last but not least, you're allowed to change your story mid-sentence. You are allowed to change your story mid-sentence. Listen, you don't need approval. You don't need a new degree. You don't need a dramatic ending, right? You just need to believe that your next chapter starts when you say no. That your next chapter starts when you say no. Say no to what? Say no to what this is. Whatever the this is. When you're willing to say no to that, guess what? You're starting already, writing your new chapter. Okay. All right. So let's get into our biblical wisdom on this transformational Thursday. Listen, Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Listen, this verse is really a call. I love this verse, right? I'm always talking about this verse because I think that, one, we need to get some verses in our spirit that we can lean on. Okay. All right. And this is a verse that you can lean on, right? Do not be conformed to the patterns of the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Listen, this verse is a call to identity shift. It's not about rejecting external patterns, right? It's about auditing this internal program. So the patterns of this world includes the false narratives that we learned and the ones that we inherited in our blood, right? I talk about this like the a lot of the stuff that you're feeling emotionally ain't even your emotion. It's inherited. It was in the blood, right? Right. And then you have identified with it. All right. So these patterns may include these patterns of the world may include things like you are not enough, be quiet to stay small, right? Don't rock the boat. If you fail, you are a failure, right? But listen, renewing your mind means to replace these inherited learned scripts, right, with intentional truths that this is not true. Like this is not true. It's or theory. This is not true. All right. It's daily spiritual work. It requires daily spiritual work, right? Rewriting how you speak to yourself, what you believe about your worth, and how you choose to show up in this world. So transformation is not about trying harder, you guys. It's about thinking differently. All right. And not just thinking, but believing different, right? Speaking different and living different. All right. All right. All right. This isn't about some distant God demanding perfection again. You know, uh I want you to really understand that there is a divineness in us. This is about that spirit within that is inviting you to align with your truth, right? And when you shift your mind, you really start to shift your life. All right. And when you reclaim your voice, you really start to reclaim your vision for what? For your life. Okay. And for the life of your seeds, everything that come after you. All right. Joel 2 and 25. This is the promise verse. Listen, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. I love this verse too. I'm just introducing this one. I go through and ask all these different verses that could match my life lesson, and I'm reading them. And I love that this verse came up as one of the verses because I just think that it's a great verse. I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. This is Joel 2 and 21. All right. So this verse is about God promise of what? Redemption. All right. Not just of time, but of your identity. All right. Maybe your story has been shaped by silence or shame or struggle. Maybe you've wasted years believing a lie, that lie that you're not good enough, that you can't change, that this is just who you are. But here in this verse, God is saying, if your story has been uh even if your story has been derailed, I can restore it, right? So this means you can rewrite a new narrative and still redeem what you lost. All right. So you can redeem this lost time. It's not too late. You're not broken, and the God within you is not behind. All right. All right. So restoration isn't about going back, right? It's about being called forward in alignment into this version of you that always existed beneath the false labels in the old loops. All right. God is not just asking you to perform for restoration. He's reminding you that you are still worthy of becoming even after what you survived. All right. Listen, I know that a lot of times, we feel like we've lost out on a lot, but the promise verse here say, I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. So all that you feel like you lost, being stuck in that old narrative and that old story and all the shoulda, coulda, woulda, you can put that to the side, because as soon as you accept this thing of truth, that you are divine and that everything is working for your good, and you pick up that pen and you start rewriting your story, and stay focused, looking forward, and not being like Job's wife and looking back and turning into a pillar of salt, right? But staying focused and saying, thank you that I've come to a part of my life where I can move forward, right? And I can write my story. Then God is promising that redemption, promising that all that time that you lost, that you're trying to go back and get, that you're trying to go back and restore, that you're trying to, oh, if I would have, God is saying, no, you don't got to do nothing. Just write your story and then let it be aligned with the divinity. Let it be in alignment with the divinity that I called in you, right? and I will restore that back to you. Okay. So again, I will restore you for the years that the locusts have eaten. All right. And that's not your job. Your job is to rewrite your story and align in God's truth. And then God will redeem, right? Life will have a way of accelerating and catching everything up. It's kind of like everything just falls right into place. All right. And your job is to have the courage to let go of this old narratives, to unlearn some things, right? Learn some new things, be present. All right. Allow the triggers to bring a presence about. All right. Rewrite the stories, understand your core beliefs, manage the triggers, right? In a sense, allow them to happen and be willing to let your nervous system know that you're safe. All right. Understand what your opportunity costs are, right? Turn your obstacles into opportunities. All right. Break your patterns by changing your paradigm. All right. And then managing this inner critic, right? This it factor, understanding what your identity is, and then finding a new way to be in communication with this self talk. All right. So again, these verses say this, that your story is not stuck, right? Your healing is not hypothetical, and your beginning is not conditional. Okay. One rewrites the mindset, which is Romans 12:2, and the other restores the meaning, which is Joel 2:25. They're not about punishing or pressure, they're about permission and possibility, you guys. All right. So this whole idea um that is impossible, you can change that to I'm possible. All right. And I know you saw that before, right? Nothing in life is impossible because it's you can change that same word of impossible into I'm possible. All right. And you are. So you are allowed to release the old version of you and still be loved. You are allowed to speak a new story and still be seen. And you are allowed to be transformed. All right. And not owe anyone an explanation. All right. So here's my anchor question for you after this biblical wisdom. How does these verses reshape how you see your power in your words? All right. And the possibility of your becoming. Okay. And how do we put this into action? Listen, name one outdated belief or label. I want you to write a new declaration that aligns with that truth, and then speak it out loud every morning for the next 7 days. If you want a journal prompt, I want you to, what story do I need to retire? All right. And then what new truth am I ready to write in its place? And then your affirmation for today: I am not the story they gave me. I am the truth I choose. All right. And then the intention, the in the energy that we're going to set for today is today I release the lie and I reclaim my life. And listen, here's your bonus challenge. Every time you catch an old narrative in your mind, pause, all right, and say out loud that that's not my story anymore. That is not my story anymore. All right. Even do that when people try to, I'm going to let you have that. That's not my story anymore. But if that's what you want to believe, listen, that's not my story anymore. But if that's what you want to believe, give it to them. Let them have it instead of defending and I changed. I did. You know, right. And the more you can sit comfortably in that, then the more life will start to show you that. All right. All right. And we all know that I have that call, that challenge, that charge. Okay. I'm calling now asking, what limited story are you walking away with from today? All right. And then your challenge is to speak one new truth out loud today. Out loud. Let your tongue taste it. Okay. Out loud, and let it shape how you show up. And then the charge on this morning is go speak truth over your identity, and then go shape your life. All right. Listen, this uh if you're ready to rewrite your story with structure and growth, you know that I've opened the doors for that growth membership. All right, to give you the tools and a container to live in this truth. All right, you don't have to do it alone. So if you need that information, you can join me at shelittle.com/life. I want you to, I want to ask you this. If this session resonated with you and you're walking away with some insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat. If you hadn't already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join the Elevated Life with Sheila Little Facebook group. And I thank you so much as we wrap up another week, letting go of your false narratives. This is all about unlocking your potential, right? Next week, we're talking about open to possibilities. All right. So we're going to be on the O and unlock, really claiming your power, right? Opening yourself up for possibilities. I'm excited about that conversation. I want you to remember this though. Above all things, when you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. All right. I love you. I love you. I love you. I will see you on Monday. Okay. On Monday. Enjoy your Juneteenth on today. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. All right. And I'll see you on Monday as we start to talk about how being open to possibilities, right? And really claiming your power. I love you. I'll see you on Monday for that life lesson. All right. Till later. Till later.